This is Coffee with Kelly, a dynamic podcast that's dedicated to driving positive change in school safety. I'm your host, Ethan Woodman, Product Marketing Specialist for Crisis Go, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Kelly Moore, Senior School Safety Specialist for Crisis Go. Our mission is to empower you with essential knowledge, tools, and inspiration required to foster a safer and more secure school environment. We hope this podcast will be the catalyst for transformation in your schools. Join us as we continue to dive into the world of school safety. Alrighty. Good morning, Kelly.
Morning, Ethan.
How are you doing?
I am good. Why wouldn't I be? Life is good.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to go back in time. So I think I may have said this on the other podcast, but we had this like very foundational structure to our podcast in the first season of Coffee with Kelly, which seems very long ago. I was actually listening to the episode and I had to like scroll so far down. I was like, wow, there's a lot of episodes. And so it's really funny because in the episode we were talking about you first introducing me to cowboy coffee and how I was looking up what cowboy coffee was.
And you still haven't tried it yet.
I still haven't tried it.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go through the effort of making not great coffee.
It is super easy. It's the easiest thing.
I know, but like I can make
could be
good coffee just as easily with my machine.
My machine.
So because I listened to that and I had some fancy coffee, I can't remember what it was. So then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a fancy coffee this morning. So I took a banana.
Really? That surprises me.
Blended it with milk. So I made like banana milk and I made an iced banana latte. So good. So good. Try it out. Super easy to make.
No, I'm not going to try it out. I'm
telling the audience, people that are listening that enjoy good coffee.
I put water into a coffee pot. I heat that water up. I put coffee into that water, coffee grounds into that water. I have it boil for a little bit. At the end of that, I put a little bit more coffee around or water around just to sink those grounds to the bottom. And then I have probably the best cup of coffee I have ever had.
Crazy.
And I will tell you that my wife was one of the biggest skeptics when I told her that's what we were going to do. And then I told her, I said, just try it. She did. And now every time she travels and then returns home, one of the first things she says is my coffee. I'm just saying. And I will tell you that I spend about 16 cents per cup.
It's pretty good. That is pretty good.
And I drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, I'm probably more like maybe like 30 something cents a cup. That's what I do.
What brand do you use as your coffee?
Man, I use all sorts of different ones. I like to use the just roasted free trade kind of, micro coffee brewery kind of stuff. I used to have a subscription and I'd get coffee and like you could see when it was brewed and it was like a couple days prior to when I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a great cup of coffee. Tell you what, I can tell the difference between pre-ground and ground coffee. Mm-hmm. If I have it just black, I can tell you if it was pre-ground or not. Pretty bad.
That's awesome. What are we talking about today? We got sidetracked into coffee. The 3 pillars of coffee.
The 3 pillars of coffee, okay?
Cheap, easy, and lots.
There you go. Kelly's favorite coffee. All right. So one of my favorite episodes we did back in the day was the 3 pillars of school safety. And so these 3 pillars are systems, policies, and people. So let's dive into, I'm going to save the people one for last. So let's dive into systems.
Hmm.
So when we're talking about systems, we're talking about like the tangible physical systems, right? We're talking about access control, we're talking about video camera systems, we're talking about, now there's like AI stuff, which like feel like wasn't as much of a thing back when we were talking about it, but
Yeah, no, no, no.
and then, you've got all sorts of stuff. You've got
Yeah,
all these different types of devices you can use to send out alerts. You've got, I mean, goodness,
yeah.
strobes and PA systems and all that.
So systems is really more than just systems of technology.
Oh, okay.
Systems include processes,
Well, that's right. That
system
was that was the thing. You said systems and processes. That's what
processes.
it was.
Yeah. The reason there is because we can never ever, I don't care what the system is that you put into your safety, we can never ever install it and forget it,
Mm,
complete it and forget it. And that's becoming more and more of an issue. And that camera systems are becoming obsolete. They're the technology is advancing so quickly that cameras and physical systems that you've put into place even a couple years ago are likely obsolete, right? So, but the systems of assessing and validating and ensuring people are trained, training is a system, and making sure everyone's trained and so forth is a process that has to be continually validated. We can't just validate it today and have the confidence that what we validated yesterday is valid today. Now, I don't
mm,
mean we have to do everything every day. What I am saying is confidence in the validation of your systems degrades with time. So the longer it has been since you have done an assessment, the less confidence you can rightfully tell somebody that you have in that system,
mm.
right?
It's
So
true.
just as an example, if we train all of our teachers and all of our staff members, our administrators, our safety teams, whatever, if we if we train them once a year and then we don't talk to them about it, we don't do anything about it until next year when we have time to do it, then the confidence, if I were to ask you this question, are you ready to respond to any emergency today? And some people are going to say, well, yeah, of course we are. Why? Well, because we trained. When was the last time you trained? Well, it's been 6 months. Okay. So you're sure everyone knows what they're supposed to do. Yeah, we trained it. Okay. But being
Hmm.
in education, we also know this for a fact. Learning and teaching are different things.
Oh yeah.
So I can teach somebody. So if I have an hour, and I think I told you this, when I was at the school district, they wanted me to train them on Crisis Go. I
Mm,
trained I trained a bunch of trainers, so I trained the trainers, but a bunch of the schools wanted me to help them. They weren't comfortable with it. So I went out to all of those schools, probably half of those schools, and helped them and really train them. And then one day I was walking out of my office and the assistant superintendent in charge of HR says, "Hey, Kelly, you've been going out and training all of these people in Crisis Go." And I said, "Yeah." And they said, we were talking about it at staff the other day in the executive cabinet, and they said, maybe it's time for us to learn how to do that. And I says, fantastic, happy. And he says, okay, I'll set it up. How long do you need? And I says, the training is an hour. And then he said, well, we got other stuff we got to do too. So can you do it in 45 minutes? I said, sure. Over the next week, he kept coming back to me and saying, hey, we got some other stuff that is critical. Can we shorten that? And every time I said, sure, we can do that. And then finally, I just told him, I said, if you want me to do it in 5 minutes, I can do it in 5 minutes. But are you getting anything out of it?
mm,
Right. And I went through all of the things. I ended up having about 8 minutes when everything was said and done.
That's crazy.
It's fantastic. I was super happy.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
but they prioritized other things, and I get it, but they never rescheduled for me to come back, right? And so I taught them, do you think they're competent in it? Do you
No,
think they're confident in it? Do
definitely
you
not.
think they even know when to press the button? Probably not. So, and I'll give you this one last example. After I left the district, about a year later, I get a call from one of the principals. Hey, Kelly, I need some training, some refresher training on Crisis Go in the app. And I said, okay. He said, can you come down and do that? I'm sorry, it was a couple of years later because I was in Virginia at the time. And I just moved to Virginia. And I said, I can't do that because I just made the move. And I said, and really, you need to talk to your safety person first. If they can't do that, then I'd be happy to help you. Right. And so he says, okay, let me call them. And before he, and I'll call you back. And I said, okay. But before he hung up, he says, people aren't using this like it should be used. And I said, okay, why do you think that is? And so he says, we just haven't had somebody like you that was coming around and checking. And I,
Wow, what a
and I
concept.
said, okay, that's an issue. I said, but let's talk about that later. Let's get you up and running. So talk to your person. And then he calls me back in a couple of weeks and he says, Kelly, I can't seem to find out who that is.
Wait,
So
what?
exactly. So they didn't replace the person, they replaced my position, but they completely changed the direction of what that position was responsible for. And so you can't you can't sit there and say, okay, all of my staff is confident in using this. So you have to have these processes in place where you're looking at how do you assess the competency of your staff in using this? How do you correct things? How do you show that you're improving? How do you show all of those are processes and that are systems that help you validate and make sure that your systems are working. You paid for them, use them. If it's not working correctly, get it fixed, right? I remember there was a district, and I'm not going to name the district itself, but there was a district who had purchased our system and had a shooting and never installed it. But when questioned about their safety plans, they said, "Yeah, we have Crisis Go." If they can't claim, they can claim they have Crisis Go, but they can't claim that that's helped at all, right? So if the lawsuit comes down, they can say, "Well, what you didn't have anything in place. You didn't document that not only that you had it, but you actually trained it. Those people knew how to use it, et cetera, et
Mm,
cetera, et cetera, right? So it's these systems that are necessary to make sure that what you are doing has been validated and that you're in this continual improvement cycle, right? Because well, I think it was two podcasts ago where I told you if I'm an attorney looking to go after your school because my client had an issue, the first thing I'm going to ask you for is I want your emergency plans. I want to see the training documents that you have trained on it. I want to see if you're in compliance with the state law. I want to see all of these things. And if you're not, or you can't establish that, or the plans that I give you were validated 7 years ago and hasn't changed one bit, including the date, but it's been forwarded over and over and over again because they took the easy route, then you're going to lose that, right? So there's a reason other than just you would think being keeping your school safe is that is sufficient for you to do it correctly, but there's a lot more pressing issues, right? I know this lawsuit didn't go anywhere, but there was a lawsuit that was $27 billion. Didn't go anywhere, but I we could talk about that later. But that's what they're looking at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and if you haven't done what you're supposed to do, I'm telling you, people are
Yeah.
gonna start.
Seems like you're more likely to run into that. People are more likely to hold you accountable nowadays. Seems like
Yeah,
people are more likely to throw around those lawsuits. So it
and
sounds like what you're talking about is that even if you have all these systems, whether they're the physical systems or all that, sounds like you need people involved. They're not going to just run themselves. Yeah.
well, before we move on, let me just say this one last thing about systems. I've I've been in school safety for 6 years now, both as a practitioner and as an associated with a vendor. And the the one thing that I will tell you is, in addition to all of these disparate systems that you have, you need a system that can communicate and manage and bring all of those systems together, or or you're you're going to struggle. You're just going to struggle. So managing those systems is a system in itself. There you go. So now let's move on to people, huh?
Well, you want to do policies or people?
Up to you. I don't care.
Let's do policies.
Policies.
So, what makes a good policy?
So the elements of a good policy is it's clear, concise, directive, and defendable,
Where do
essentially.
where do policies fall within your your EOP?
So your policies dictate that you have an EOP. Your policies are at the district level, right? The EOP is not necessarily a policy. Some might adopt it as a policy. The better way to do a policy is generally
Copy and
when
paste
it
from someone else?
no, well, I mean, if it works, it works. As long as it's correct and it works for you. But is to create a overarching document that directs you to do something or not do something
Mm,
that doesn't have to be changed every year,
interesting. Okay.
right? Or it's going to become such a every time you change it, you got to go back to the policy to change it, which
Right.
takes an action of the board.
Gotcha. Yep.
So now you're putting it into this big bureaucracy to get everything changed every time you want to do it. So that being said, and I'll give you an example of the a good policy that I had to follow for the school. You shall maintain current emergency operation plans and be compliant with California state guidelines.
That sums it
That's
up.
the policy, right? So the sister policy to that was every employee shall follow the EOP as set forth in the previous policy, right? There's very little detail in there. Why? Because the document itself is essentially a living document.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
going to be making changes all of the time to that document. Because
Mm,
why? I'm going to be actively improving that document. So the California state law at the time, and I think it still is, that you have to approve the current EOP. They called it something different. They called it the California Comprehensive School Safety Plan.
EOP
It's
is a lot
because
easier to
it's
say.
right, but it's in California. You had to include everything that you were doing to keep your kids safe, including
Mm,
the positive supportive environment. You were reporting crimes that had occurred on campus so that you were aware of all of that stuff, right? And in addition to what we consider EOPs, checklists, the emergency operations plans, what to do in specific instances, right? So that, that's having a book this thick worth of stuff, right? And it's different with each school, but you can have two, I'll call them books, but two sections of that plan. One, it addresses all of the school environment stuff and culture stuff, and the other that has just the specifics in the active shooter response, the fire response, all of the hazard response, identification and response that we're more familiar with, right? They have to be approved once a year and approved by the board before March 1st, I believe, or the immediate board meeting after March 1st, something like that. So that's California law. So any changes that I needed to make in the active EOP, the one that was current, then I could make those changes, send out a memo of notification to everybody. This section has changed. I put that at the back of my file with the changes, and then I incorporate that into the EOP when I get it approved next year. And I haven't touched the policy. I'm doing everything
Right.
that
Right.
I'm supposed to do, and I haven't touched the policy, right? And there are other policies that are, you know, that are part of that. And you just reference the policies within the plan, like discipline policies, school dress code policies, if those are a thing that affect culture,
Mm.
and those types of things. So you just say, in accordance with this policy, you shall do that, and it's in the plan referencing the policy. And the policies sit there until they go through a review process, or somebody asks for a change and says, hey, this is too restrictive, or this isn't working, we need to change it. But that's at the executive board level, not down at Kelly. I don't have to say, hey, I need to make this change, write a new board policy with the new changes and all that stuff. I get to operate down below that.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So the policy drives that. The policy drives that as the safety coordinator, as a principal, as an assistant superintendent, drives that I am going to be compliant with the current safety plan, which is compliant with the state law, right? So that's
Mm.
policy. And that's so when I say, hey, you have to do this, and they say, I don't want to do it, I said, here's the policy. It says you have to do it because I have to be current and you have to be compliant, right? So it gives
Gotcha.
it gives the EOP teeth.
Yeah, yeah.
Good policies give the, you can have bad policies too,
Yeah,
and those need to
what
be
does a bad
corrected.
policy look like?
A bad policy is, here's our EOP. In the policy, in the because the policies at the district board level,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, and the reason that would be a bad policy is because the policy is or the plan is something that has to be changed so often. I would have been at the board, every board meeting, addressing changes that I made 4 months ago before I could get on the board agenda,
Mm.
as opposed to just making the changes and then addressing it at my annual approval process.
Gotcha. Okay. So
But there's lots of bad policies that get too far down in the weeds.
gotcha. So it's better to make your policies a little bit more general, and then have the flexibility to edit the EOP that exists within that policy.
Yeah, especially when you're referring to another document in policy. You shall be
Gotcha.
compliant. You shall comply to the EOP, right?
Okay.
So then I have this other document that deals with all of the details,
Mm.
right? Everything. So the directive to every staff member and student for that matter in the district is addressed that they shall be compliant with the EOP. Now I can go into the EOP and I can address all of those details, and it becomes enforceable if they want to. Does that make sense?
So who's usually responsible for uh editing, managing, reviewing your EOP? Like where's the accountability? Like I'm like what if you have someone that maybe is new to this, maybe they're new to the safety thing and
Mhm.
they make a change to the EOP that like just doesn't make any sense. Like that's actually worse. Like how do you where's the accountability there? Like who would review that and go, "Hey, so what you actually wrote here is horrible." And
So I'm going to say this.
okay.
It's changing, but currently that's the crux of the problem is that we have people who have zero experience in writing them. We have zero experience in actually what school safety is. It's in many cases, school safety is given to an administrator as a collateral assignment, meaning that's not their primary focus. There is a push nationally to require specific, and I'm going to say this is also falling short. The the change is that every school district has a designated safety person. A designated safety person doesn't define what that means and doesn't correct the problem because it doesn't state what the minimum qualifications of that person is.
Mm.
So you could literally have a school administrator who's never once dealt with emergency planning, documentation, what have you, be just because they're an assistant superintendent somewhere, be designated as the safety professional, the safety coordinator for that district, right?
Mm.
So that's not what you need, right? And so who creates the standard? There isn't a standard. There's the all of these suggestions.
You have all
Some
these
people will
inputs
call
from
from
right field,
everybody.
left field,
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. So the and when you say that it's just wrong, that the EOP or the input into the EOP is wrong. Wrong is conditional in this case,
Yes.
right? And so it who's responsible for it? Ultimately, it's the school board and the superintendent because they're the ones who gave the authority to whoever write it, right?
Mm.
Realistically, it's the responsibility of everyone who's involved in the process to that response, right? We oftentimes create EOPs in response to a mandate, but the reason that we write them is to help coordinate the people who are there at the scene of an incident and all of those partners that you are going to have come help you,
Mm.
right? So that everyone knows what the plan is. The problem is that plan usually sits in a red binder behind whoever that
On a shelf,
shelf
collecting
somewhere,
dust.
right? Right. So it's supposed to be used in every aspect of your training, your tabletops, all of those things. It's supposed to help you provide an opportunity for you to be successful. However, if you don't pull that plan out and you don't exercise that plan and you don't socialize it with everybody and have that discussion before it becomes set in stone, then there's going to be an issue there, right? And so there really has to be, and we talked about this a little bit recently. In it has to be a community effort. It takes a village to keep your school safe. It does. It takes a community. And we have to have those conversations with our trusted partners. How we're going to do that, how you're going to do that is something that we need to have a conversation about.
Yep.
But it's there to go back to your question. It's there during those conversations that we're going to find something out that says, "Ooh, this doesn't look right. Why would you do that?" Me coming from a law enforcement background,
Mm.
And specifically with my emergency management and crisis response background, I'm going to ask you, okay, why is this here? Have you thought about this? I didn't think about that. I mean, there was lots and lots of those questions when I did my initial assessment with the school district that first day on the job. Okay, this doesn't ring well with me. Let's discuss this. Why is this the case? Why do you have this? It might be something that I'm not familiar with because I haven't been in the school systems. And I go, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Or or I might say, yeah, that's stupid. Let's change that. And this is why we're going to change it. So they understand, right? Of course, I'm not going to say this is stupid, you're stupid. I'm going to say
Right.
this doesn't play well with me. But the other issue that we have to, and this is a very difficult thing for schools, especially to understand, and is part of the problem of why we're at the status that we're at now, which is 27 years past Columbine, and we're still talking about this. And is that everyone who's looking at your plans, absent those dynamic conversations, everyone who's looking at your plans are looking at it from their perspective. If I just send my plans to law enforcement because that's the requirement, I had to get them approved by the fire department and by the law enforcement. If I just send them a copy and say, sign this is what they're going to do. If they do anything at all, they're going to look at it from their perspective and say, well, this is stupid. This is stupid. Here, you need to change this. Okay, why? Because I need this. I need this. So every time that you do this, first of all, because of the differences in mandates and functionality, the fire department and law enforcement are always going to be at odds, right? It just safety wise. The law enforcement guys are going to go in head first. Fire guys don't have the ability to protect themselves in active violence. So they're not going to say, I'm following you right in. They're not going to do that. So they're in conflict. But I have somebody here who's bleeding out. It's not safe for me to go in there, right? They don't have that training. They don't have that protective equipment, however that's defined. So they're always going to be in conflict. So you're just going to be going around in circles and you're going to say, what the hell? But now, if we can say, what would it take for you to come in?
Mm.
Right? Or in a fire, I
It
wish I
goes the
had
other way.
the growth. If I had a fire, right, it goes the other way. But here's the
Yeah.
reason it goes the other way is when you're looking at the perspective of a firefighter, the longer it burns, the more dangerous it becomes. In the instance of an active shooter or active violence, the longer it goes on, the safer it becomes.
Right. Because typically those events only last like
That's
a
right.
minute or so.
Yeah, a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And so that danger curve is high and then goes down and out.
Mm.
Whereas the fire curve goes long, long, long. Then it starts to shoot up at the end when it's really starting to become volatile. So explaining that and saying, okay, where do these two lines meet to where you're comfortable at coming in? So now I can change the plan. So we have a hot zone, which keeps everyone out except for law enforcement. And then we have a warm zone that is mostly cleared, but we can't guarantee safety. But we can send people force protection in with you in the form of a rescue task force. So that
Mm-hmm.
we'll send a couple of guys in to protect you. And we've already cleared that area, but we haven't cleared the whole scene yet. So it could become dangerous. But for the most part, it's as safe as we can get it right now. Right. So now we can have those conversations. And now we can start talking about the issues with the schools. Okay, what do I need to know? Who do I contact? Who who is the where are they going to be? Where's your command post going to be? What all of those things that I can figure that out long beforehand. So now my plans are valid. And if we're really going to validate it, we're going to look at it and say, let's have a tabletop. Let's run through a couple of these
Mm,
and have that conversation to validate the actual plan.
sounds like a smart idea.
Yeah. I wish I could take credit for it. And here's the other way of validating those plans. Create a plan. Create your plan the best way you know how. And then take your plan and walk through it. I call it walking the plan. One of the first steps you should take is, does this make sense if I'm walking through it? And when I say walk through it, I mean really literally walk through it.
Mm,
Right? So take your plan and walk through the entry of your door, right? Change the entrances. Walk through. Does it make sense every time you actually walk through, especially in an active shooter plan? That's where they're going to walk through, right? They're not going to burrow through the side wall or a roof access. Probably not, but it's possible. But the idea is, where is that attack coming from? Walk through it. And then what do you see that you need to address? And does it look similar to the plan? What do you want them to do? Walk through it. If you're saying something that is absolutely wrong or incorrect, it should show up there and you can change it. So, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
nice. I like it. So then we move on to the third pillar. Your favorite pillar,
I
people.
People,
Now, Kelly, why are people a pillar of school safety?
we have to, let me rehash something that we've or just revisit something. So we have just talked about the other two pillars: systems, policies contain people.
Mm,
Your people, if they're properly trained, can get you through so much of any incident and you haven't spent a dime, right? And if you are talking left of bang, prevention and preparedness, your people are absolutely crucial there. If you want to prevent something from happening, just putting a lock on the door that's not going to help you. It might help you a little bit. But if your people don't know how to understand how to identify a threat, and when I say threat, I'm not talking just about active violence threats. I'm talking about combustibles next to the furnace. I'm talking about electrical wires that are dangling. I'm talking about loose railing. I'm talking about anything that can harm your staff. My door's not locking. My key card isn't working,
mm,
right? My whatever's not working. My panic button, even though I never have to address it, isn't working, right? How do I fix that? How do I identify that as a threat and correct that? This behavior that I'm seeing in little Johnny and little Susie is not good. How do I report that? Is it academic related or is it behavioral violence related? And we've talked many times about how those run parallel to each other. So understanding all of those systems and how to report it, how to correct it, how to address it is something that if you're not teaching your staff, then and those people aren't involved, then you're stopping short of your goal, right? We said earlier, it takes a village, takes a community. A school is a subset of the community. It is a sub community. You
yeah.
have in, I mean, in a school system, you have just about everything. And in some schools, you have almost everything that a community has this in this little micro environment we call the school.
Mm,
So we can't just say, oh, that's the responsibility of this other community member. We have our own community within this school that has to help everybody function in that we'll call it safety network.
it reminds me of that article we went over a little while ago, where it was, I think the principal would every morning had like a morning huddle with her entire staff and just kind of went over like what's the status, of this and this, and like
Mm-hmm.
just doing that over the period of a year. I mean, they decreased their like instances of, bullying or
Violence.
violence or anything like that by
Uh-huh.
like a lot.
It
It
was
was
like
like 90,
80% or
it was like
something,
80 or
right?
90%. It was crazy.
80%. Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's just people. That's
Yep.
just people getting together, communicating, and making it a thing, And
It's it's focused on awareness.
yeah.
What's the current status of our building? Are we ready for today? Right? It's it's that, use the football analogy that we like to use so much. It's it's that locker room speech right before you go out into the game from the
Mm,
coach. That's what it is. They're ready. Are you ready? Your your opponent is ready. Are you?
mm,
We're here. Are you ready? You ready to go out there and make a difference today? Right? Works in that case. And they documented the improvement. It was clear that
yeah.
there was improvement there. And so, and that's not just a one off case. It was the one that was highlighted, but that's not a one off case.
But yeah.
There's lots of people who are doing it correctly.
But
But
yeah.
the question that you have to ask yourself, am I doing it correctly? Are we doing it correctly? Are we confident that when somebody presses that button, we know what to do? And I will go one step further. Regardless of whether or not it's a real event or a false alarm, are you prepared as to what to do?
Mm,
Are you, as a safety leader, as the leadership of your building, are you capable of knowing the difference? What are the indicators that one is real and one is not? And what steps do you have to take in both of those? We just going to let the entire community come in and say, what are you guys doing here? We got an alert, right? One of our competitors admits that 30+% of their activations are false or accidental.
and there's no way to mitigate
Solve them. There's no way
there's no
to mitigate. And so you, understanding that you have I don't even know how much fire trucks weigh,
a lot.
but lot, right? And especially if they have water on board,
That's
but
true.
they're barreling through your community. And you're just going to sit there and wait. We don't know.
Mm,
Let's figure that out, right? Yeah, I mean, let's look for a solution to report that that was an accidental or a false alarm. Let's do an after action report, because the initial response should always be that it's real until you figure out that it is not, till you confirm one way or the other, right? You shouldn't assume that it's false and then go out and try to confirm that it's real. Bad case scenario, right? You should assume that it's real and till you figure out that it's false. But what does that mean?
mm,
How do you confirm that it's false?
good question.
Call me if you need help on that.
I mean, I don't know how you do it without having some form of communication.
Well, that there's the verification that you sent an alert, right? We have that. So if your button is activated accidentally, you get a notification. When your button is activated, you get a notification, so that if you sent it accidentally, you can report that to somebody and say, hey,
Mm,
my button went off. I must have hit it. I pressed it too many times or something, whatever, right? I don't have any issues. Well, then you can start slowing things down, notifying 911, hey, we just had this thing. We believe it's accidental.
mm,
Keep coming, but slow everything down, right? But there's also indicators. Are you hearing shots? Are you seeing people running? Are you hearing screaming? Are you smelling anything? You feeling anything? There's all these, you have many senses to determine whether or not, if you haven't ever been in a situation where there was mass panic, you know when there's mass panic.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
very obvious that there is mass panic.
I don't know if I've ever been in a situation where there's mass panic. Yeah, I don't think I've ever experienced that, to be honest.
If you want to establish mass panic, this will be one of the very few things that I will tell you to go to YouTube for about this. Go see what the mall takeover looks like when the cops arrive. The teen takeovers
Yeah.
when the cops arrive.
You
That's
said
mass
this
panic.
you said this was at a
That
mall?
at
Okay.
any of the mass teen takeovers that we're having problems with so much right now.
You love these things.
I hate these things. These things are so stupid. But
I'm
regardless, they're an
I
issue.
apologize for that generation. I don't think I think I'm in the older generation, aren't I? I'm a
You are.
millennial, and
Yep.
then what is this like
Yeah.
the Gen
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 Z or
Z?
something. Yeah.
That's like
The
their
and they might
wasn't there a
even be
movie?
Gen Alpha right now. But
Yeah, right.
the the if you see that or look at, if you're okay with this, look at the videos from the Las Vegas Harvest Festival shooting.
Mm.
You see people running in the same direction, and everybody's running, and not just casually walking.
No,
They're
they're
running, they're
yeah.
sprinting,
I mean, they're
they're
running for their
running over
life.
people,
Yeah, because you got
right?
people that
Yeah,
run faster than others, so then the people that are behind that are running faster are running over the people in front of them.
yeah. It goes back
It's
to,
like
you
craziness.
have two people swimming in the ocean, and there's a shark that's swimming by. I don't have to be the fastest. I just have to be faster than the person behind me,
That's terrible.
right? Right. But that's survival,
Yeah.
right? I have to be faster than somebody. And that's what they're talking, and that's what they're doing is, oh, this is not good. I should, even though I created this, I shouldn't be here right now because the hammer's about ready to come down, and we can see it. How do we see it? Big red and blue flashing lights are coming this way,
Mm.
right? So, yeah, that's what mass panic looks like. So those are indicators. Those are all indicators, right? So,
You're you're almost talking about another future episode. I think we'll probably touch on here because you're hinting at the reactionary gap kind of stuff.
yeah,
Pretty
but
sure we talked about that in the very beginning.
yeah, the reality is, and to keeping it with the three pillars, is we'll probably end it up with this. The three pillars are the basis for everything that you do within the school safety environment, right? But it's really good, extends beyond that. We talked about the community, we talked about all of these other people, and those systems include the processes by which we validate, assess, and we continually improve. So if you understand those three pillars and everything that you do is in line with your policy, it's a system that has processes to assess and validate their capability and their functionality, and that you have trained the people properly, you should be pretty good. Not going to be perfect. You can't say you're ever 100% safe, right? We don't live in that world. Never have lived in that world.
If you can be safer today than you were tomorrow, it's a good goal.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. That's right.
Yeah. If you're safer
I'm thinking
today than you
future.
were, but so, and I'll leave it this. Nobody expects you to be perfect,
Mm.
but they do expect you to continue to improve and to get better. And if you don't continually get better, or you understand how to measure and document that, you're putting yourself in a very exposed position.
Mm.
So there you go.
There you go. We'll see you next time
We'll see you
on,
next time.
on Coffee with Kelly. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you have any questions about what we discussed, leave a comment on our website at crisisgo.com. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Coffee with Kelly a discussion on school safety.